That was a big one for me, is to understand that and not reject that failure, because
Yeah.
it is part of the learning process and it's part of the
Mhm.
growth process. And if we insulate ourselves against that failure, we're not going anywhere. We're stagnant.
Welcome to The Expansion Code. I'm Heather, and I could not be more excited to finally launch this podcast. This is the space where we dive into all things business, growth, leadership, and team expansion. I am really passionate about building something bigger than myself, sharing knowledge, and creating opportunities for others to thrive. I started solo, and now I lead a team of over 50, so trust me, I know the highs and the challenges and the incredible moments that come with scaling a business. Throughout this podcast, I'll be sharing insights, strategies, and conversations with some truly incredible guests. We are going to cover everything from marketing and leadership to mindset shifts and business expansion. So my goal is to give you real actionable takeaways that you can apply to your own journey. Let's dive in, learn together, and unlock what's next. Welcome to The Expansion Code. Welcome back to another episode of The Expansion Code with Heather Dick. That is me, your host. Today, I have Traci Bateman here. She is a pillar in the MediSpa community in Edmonton. And now you're consulting for entrepreneurs and empowering women. I am so happy and I feel quite blessed to have Traci on the podcast today. We are going to be discussing your space and the inception of it and just honestly how incredible you are. So welcome, Traci, sorry. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thanks, Heather. I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah. So before we get into your business, why don't you give a little bit of background for our listeners on yourself, your journey into this realm, anything, we think we need to know.
I kind of fell into the wellness industry by accident, to be perfectly honest. My husband was in the grocery business. So he had IGAs and Sobeys stores for years. And in 2011, we sold our last grocery store, and we kind of looked at each other and said, we're too young to retire. It's not enough money to retire. We need to do something else. And my background is entrepreneurialism. I've been in golf. I've been in marketing. I've been in IT. I've been in subsequently interior design. And so I'm just one of those people who starts businesses. And at the time, my brother was writing a paper on how to build a yoga studio. And we were into hot yoga at the time. We're like, oh, maybe we should build a hot yoga studio. And so I'll give a little bit of background too, is when we were in the grocery business, we got to travel to some great locations, Portugal, Italy, Vegas, Hawaii. And every time we traveled, we went to the spa and we golfed. And then we'd come back to Edmonton and go, hey, should we go for a massage? And we'd look at each other and go, meh. Like there was just nothing that really stood out, that we had that same experience that we had when we were traveling. And so when we talked about building this yoga studio, we're like, well, if we do yoga, we have to have massage. And if we have massage, we have to have spa. And if we have to have spa, we're going to have MediSpa. And it grew from this 1,000 square foot project to 8,000 square feet in a matter of months.
Yeah, I get it. So if anyone's listening and isn't in the Edmonton area, I'm going to give, because Traci, I'm sure you'll talk about it, but I'm just going to give a little background of Mike's. My best friend and I go for couples facials every Christmas at your space. And your space is like nothing that Edmonton has. It is, not only is it high end, it is insanely well developed and designed. You feel like you're catapulted into a different city. And I think that as a user of your space and like a guest there, you've done an incredible job creating exactly like what you're talking about, something that Edmonton didn't have.
Thank you. That's exactly, and we actually have it on our website. Like we wanted to create a wellness retreat that didn't exist in Edmonton before. And it's interesting, over the last 13 years, we've seen more and more pop up. So I do feel that we kind of broke the ice in this working class, blue collar government city to have this luxury experience. And now we're seeing more and more of it.
Which is amazing. You're a trailblazer.
I guess so.
It's cool though. And your space is so unique. And even the other ones that have popped up, I still think yours, takes the cake. You've done an incredible job in that space. So I would like to hear, So you talk about, going from 1,000 square feet to 8,000. So how did you create Bliss, like the business itself?
Um, well, it was really interesting because the whole goal actually was my husband and I were going to start it, and we hired his right hand woman from his grocery store days who worked for him for 20 years, trusted her implicitly, helps run the stores. And we're like, hey, do you want to come into this business with us? She's like, well, I might get pregnant. And in that time period between grocery and Bliss, she actually did get pregnant. So the poor Dorothy had 2 months of maternity leave. That was it. And then we started and she was in here. So it was kind of the three of us, and I was actually supposed to step back after a year or two, but we didn't know what we were doing. We've never run a spa before. We've never run a yoga studio before. We have a lot of business acumen. And that's kind of what we talk about, is that we hire people who are smarter than us, who can build out those specific parts. So we have a spa lead, we have a yoga director. We now have some other things that are happening that are really fun that we'll talk about. But we understood the business side of it, but we had a lot to learn about how to run a spa. But when you, like, coming from grocery and we had 600 employees, like, we had manuals and we had procedures and policies for every position, every job, every service. And so it wasn't that much different than running any
Yeah.
other business.
hmm it's just more like a plug and play. You're just replacing your deli manager with a
Basically,
yoga manager.
kind of, in a sense. Like, we had obviously learned the nuances of skincare, and there's a whole story behind skincare, because I lost my mom to breast cancer. I'm very, very aware of what's in the skincare products that we carry. So
hmm
endocrine disruptors are not allowed in here. So there's no phthalates, no propylene glycols, no parabens. So that's, an unwritten rule that we have in the facility because of my background. But, as you kind of touched on, everything is pretty high quality. And sometimes you lose efficacy when you go against some of these chemical laden products, but I think we found some really great products that I'm very happy with, that have good efficacy but still are good for us as on our skin.
Yeah, that is good for you for sticking to that, because I think a lot of times people get a little bit, they get dollar signs in their eyes and they're like, oh, this is the most popular product right now. We'll make an exception.
Yeah,
So good for you for not doing that.
like watching my mom die of breast cancer, I started a journey when I was 14 years old of how not to die. And it sounds a little bit morbid, but that was such an important part of building Bliss, is making sure that what we put on our skin is not going to harm us.
I'm sorry to hear about your mom.
Oh, thank you. Long time ago.
Uh, yeah. Okay. So do you have like when you created Bliss, did you have like a mission statement? Did you have something that you wanted to embody when you created this space? Because the idea of this, it's nice. It's really cool to think about your husband and you going on these vacations and then creating the space that you wanted to be in. So can you tell me a bit more about your mission statement or your values?
Yeah, you
Culture.
know what? It's exactly that. Like, our whole mission statement is about cultivating the most luxurious, pampered. We use purity, comfort, luxury, joy in our core values and our mission statement, and it's about giving that the most exclusive experience with the best products and the best services, and that kind of sums up the global. And we can talk about the shift from yoga spa to medi spa. When we had a lot of yoga, that was, we wanted to give the best yoga experience. We want to give the best spa experience. Like, that is fundamentally the business we're in, is customer service. It's not necessarily being in a spa. We're in the customer service business.
So what does the best mean to you?
That's a great question.
Oh, thank you. It's like I do this for a living.
No, it's interesting, because to me, the best is about having a staff that wants to be here, having
Mm.
clients come in and have that jaw-dropping experience, that they just feel like they've been transported to another place. The best is obviously efficacy, and having services that make a difference to your face or your skin. But also, I've had clients, and this I think is one of the most touching parts of what we do, is I've had clients come into me and say, I've been through a family death or cancer or this or that, or some sort of life experience, and say, coming here was my respite. And that's what helped me get through this tough time. And as much as I love the wellness and the skincare side of it, that actually is so rewarding to me, to hear that we've impacted people's lives and their journeys.
We don't really realize sometimes, and I know we can say this all the time and we can put posts up about how much we affect other people's lives, especially in this industry, but even a day-to-day interaction with someone at a grocery store, at a gas station, giving someone a nice compliment about like we have so much impact on each other. And I think that, you're almost doing God's work out there with your space, because it's true. And because it's so like a retreat of sorts.
Yeah.
One of the girls actually that works for Blush was telling me, I can't remember which specifically, but she said, I went and got a massage at Blush and then I laid in their lounge for 3 hours on my computer.
That's the idea, right? That's what we try to encourage and foster. And in a perfect world, we'd actually have a setting that's out in the country and you'd have pools and trees and stuff. But we didn't have that luxury in Edmonton to find that property. So this is what we had to work with.
Okay, I'm glad that you said this, because now I would like to hear about the property aspect of it. And you're choosing your location, and did you look at lots of spaces? You said you went from 1,000 to 8,000. So what was that journey like?
So it was really interesting because we actually knew the property manager we were working with at not Ellis Dawn. I'll think of it. Anyways,
Okay.
And he showed us a few different properties around the city. And at the time, I didn't even think about building our own facility, like having our own building.
Right.
And honest to God, in hindsight, I wish we had. So I'll come back to your question directly, but the rent we pay is astronomical.
I believe.
And it's honestly been a barrier to profitability for us because of the $40,000 a month in rent I pay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we didn't even consider the rent, to be perfectly honest. This location on Rabbit Hill Road was so prime with the demographics around here, right? It's high net worth. It's women who are in the right age group that have extra money that they can spend on themselves. So when we got this location, and it's funny because Mike's friends with the Allards and they own our building. And so, we had that connection as well. We knew we wanted to be on the south side. We knew the other location was over by the Costco on Winterburn that we were really looking at, but there just wasn't the traffic. And
Right.
So, yeah, like this was a great location, but still in hindsight, if I could have my own building in this neighborhood, which I don't know if that would have happened at the time either, I totally would have built my own.
Well, I mean, you look at that's so much money for a startup company.
Oh my gosh,
like
right? Yeah.
you're in the millions of building a space, especially 8,000 square feet. So you add building the building, plus you add your build out. Like,
yeah. My build out was like 1.5 million. So it was not cheap.
And that's 13 years ago.
That was 13 years ago. I can't imagine what it would be now. Yeah.
Double. It'd be double that.
Really. Yeah.
So for anyone that isn't really up with commercial space, I'm going to give a little background on your space, because you're what they would call an A location. So there's A, B, C, and D. Did you know? Yeah, you know about this. Yeah.
I know, I actually didn't realize that.
Okay, yeah. So yours would be an A location. You're on a main drag. You're front facing the road, so your sign is very visible. So like McDonald's get A locations, 7-Elevens, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
B location would be something like Blush, so it's off a main road. You can still see our sign from the main road, but it's not exactly on Broadmoor Boulevard.
Right.
And then you get C and D, which are, of course, D is, back 40. C is like back 20. And when you're paying, you pay for that though, right? And so like you pay by the square foot, so that skyrockets your lease 30 plus a square foot.
Mm-hmm. It's astronomical. Like, yeah. And it's part of the reason why we did the renovation part of it was after COVID, people didn't come back to group classes, and our yoga studio, we had 1,000 square feet sitting there earning no revenue. Mm-hmm. And so we cut our yoga studio in half, added 3 treatment rooms, and added the IV infusion therapy. So we added 5, we call them pods for IV infusion therapy. And so that's we've got some new things happening. We have a nurse practitioner coming on to help develop that whole side of the business. So we're going a little more medical over there. So yeah, like so much of business is pivoting, and
yes.
And the build out, like the building itself, we renovated twice, and we've got a third renovation maybe planned in the summertime. Like you got to go with what's happening in the economy.
And clients love to see change. They'll work around a construction zone. They can't wait to see what's behind the sheets. Like we as business owners, we get really worried about client experience, of course, right? We're like, well, I mean, especially in your space, I mean, it's got to be quiet. But regular guests in your space, regular clients are going to be like, they're so excited to see the change.
100%. And things get stagnant, things change. Like you have to stay current and relevant. And, during COVID, we repainted the entire facility and we're constantly maintaining things. Like it's incredible the amount of work it takes to keep that fresh look going too.
Mm-hmm. So when you started Bliss, did you have a loan to
Oh
do
yeah.
the,
Well, we
yeah,
did
well, I
it.
guess 1.5.
We put personal money in and we got a small loan to kind of get us through. Yeah, of
And when you were starting the company, so I love to talk numbers if you're okay with that.
course.
Okay. So you mentioned that your lease is 40,000. Did it start at 40 or has it grown to that?
It started at 36.
Okay. So
So it's still a lot of money.
so much money.
Yeah.
So you've got your loan payment. You have now a $40,000 lease that you're starting. Now you have staff.
Like, and because we are labor intensive,
Yeah.
payroll is a big part of our monthly expenses because we're not selling, like we have some retail, but that's not the primary focus of our business. Our focus is the experience. And so we pay well to have good staff that are going to follow through on that customer experience. The other things that we had to pay for was we bought lasers. So we bought 4 machines.
Them.
Well,
Wow.
we bought one and we leased a couple others. And so, yeah, there's payments on those as well every month. So lots of things to pay for in starting up a business.
And continuing to be profitable, continue to keep the doors open. People don't see that. And I think that, it's funny, you catch me on a bad day and someone says they want to start a business. I'm like, don't do it. But then, today I'm like happy and, things are good. And it's just like kids, like it's just like a marriage. It's all work.
It is. It is. And you have to be prepared for that.
Yes. You also have to be prepared to make a lot of sacrifices in the beginning. And then, it will pay off in the end. I think you just got to stick with it though.
Tenacity is the entrepreneur's favorite or best character trait, in my opinion, because it isn't for the faint of heart. And, like even having Mike in here for the first 3 years, like I had to kick him out because there was too many chiefs and it was really hard on our marriage for a while. And I'm like, dude, we can't be doing this. So I'm like, go find your own thing. And that was hard. And so, yeah, like entrepreneurship is hard on the marriage. It's hard on the finances. It's hard on the friendships because for a while there, I really became Bliss. So if we got criticisms, I took it very personally. And it was just like, there's never enough. What can I do to make it successful? And I sacrificed a lot of friendship time and time with, for myself even to focus on the business.
Do you regret sacrificing those times?
Some days. It's not necessarily a regret. It's I wish that I had known better about self-care, which is kind of ironic in the business that I'm in.
Slightly.
Yeah. It's a self-confidence thing too, because I didn't know the industry. I felt like I had to constantly be learning and understanding and making sure that I had, all facets of the business in my grasp. And so I had to work, I think, a little extra hard to be in that.
That's so brave of you, Traci.
Oh, well, thank you.
Honestly, though, I mean, it's, I started as a makeup company and I'm a makeup artist, so to go into a completely new industry because you have a dream, I mean, that's brave.
Yeah. I just kind of just do what I need to do.
Yeah,
like it's just,
I get it.
And maybe that comes from losing my mom at such a young age that you just do what you need to do. And I don't really think about it. Like I just had to figure everything out on my own. And so it's just kind of been where I've gone as I just figured out as I'm going, and I make lots of mistakes. Like, don't get me wrong. I made a ton of mistakes
and very expensive mistakes, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the best ones though, because you learn the most from that and you're like, whew, I'm never, ever doing that again.
Yeah. And that's part of why I got part of what I do too now is I do health and life coaching and business coaching. So I can help people with their struggles with self-confidence as well as give them some business advice based on all the mistakes I've made over the years. So that my goal is that I can help people navigate those way better than I did at the time.
Yeah. And it's tough because in order to build confidence, we almost need to fail. So we know, we know that it's going to be okay. And we don't die and our husbands don't die.
Life goes on.
On. And, maybe $5,000 was drained from our account because we made a bad decision, but it's just money. And all of a sudden I'm still eating,
And that's the craziest thing that I think I've learned over the last more than 13 years, 30 years in business is it always works out. Yeah. It might not always work to what you have in mind, but it does work out.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just have to kind of, I was talking to somebody the other day. Was it blind faith, or is it trust, or is it, what is it? It's like kind
Stupidity.
of it's all of it. It's
Yeah.
all of it, right? Yeah.
It's so funny because with our last expansion, I was that naive, oh, this isn't that big of a deal. And everyone was coming at us like, this is a huge undertaking. And Cameron, my partner, he says, I'm not smart enough to be scared. And I love that saying.
What
He's
a
very
great
intelligent.
expression. Yeah.
But he's very, it's just a build out. It's just a building. And worst that happens, honestly, the worst that happens, you go bankrupt.
Right. And when you put that in perspective, that who cares? Your friends still love you. Your family hasn't disowned you. Your dog still will come lick your face. Like, that was a big one for me, is to understand that and not reject that failure, because it is part of the learning process, and it's part of the growth process. And if we insulate ourselves against that failure, we're not going anywhere. We're stagnant.
Okay, we need to take a little break because, shocker, this podcast is brought to you by my flagship company, Blush, and I need to give a shout out. So not only does Blush sponsor my lavish lifestyle, it also sponsors this podcast, Shouts. If you know me, you know that I do not play around when it comes to beauty and self-care, and that's why Blush is your one-stop shop for looking and feeling your best. We genuinely do it all: hair, makeup, nails, massage, tattoo, MediSpa. Basically, if it makes you feel like a goddess, we probably offer it. So whether you're looking for a fresh balayage or a relaxing massage or a little of that I woke up like this glow, we've got the experts to make it happen. Think of it as self-care, but with a little extra love, sunshine, and family. And actually, with our most recent expansion, we now have a private gym, physiotherapy, chiropractic services, and a lot more to help your body. So if you are ready to treat yourself, book an appointment at Blush Artistry, because let's be honest, life's too short for bad hair and uneven eyeliner. You can find us at blush-artistry.ca or over on Instagram at blushartistrymua. Back to the episode. I saw a video that Jay Shetty put out, and he said that we're starting to confuse stability with boredom. And that... I was like, oh my God, that is so smart and so insightful, because we have which is fine. Everyone needs to have a 9-to-5 job, and there's a need for all of that, right? As you know.
Absolutely.
But we're playing into this really, really boring life. No one does anything anymore.
They're scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. That, and whether it's the generation of kind of, this generation has been quite coddled and they don't have coping mechanisms. I see it in my own stepkids. Like, I see it in some of the girls that I hire here. Their coping mechanisms are very limited.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a different generation.
It is a different generation. That's a whole other podcast.
That is,
but it is. I totally agree with you. Okay, so I want to go back to when you first opened Blush, because I still have some questions. Or Bliss. The names are very similar. When you first opened Bliss, what did it look like when you had all of those numbers laid out in front of you? How did you not go into or did you go into the red every month? Like, what did that look like when you had all your expenses to
we were in the red
5 years?
It's kind of like my husband would be like, okay, it's been 3 years, it's time. I'm like, yeah, give us a couple more years. And it's going to take time to get there. It's going to take time. We're still building. Nobody knew what a luxury yoga spa was in Edmonton. So, there was a quite the learning curve to get us there. And then finally, we're kind of, our reputation's there. The brand is there. And there were times when it's like, okay, we got to do something. And that's when the first reno happened. We had 2 yoga studios and a non-heated studio that we did intro and prenatal and things like that. And we could only fit, I think it was 12 people in that. And it wasn't enough to justify that space. And my husband's like, Traci, you got to get rid of it. You got to reno it. Yeah. And so that was kind of the first, we got to do something different because we're not making enough money. And so we put in a couples room and put 2 laser rooms in there, and it took it out of the main center. And so those rooms started to pay for themselves. And then again, during COVID, when we did the second renovation, and you look at these numbers and it's like, what are we going to do? And so that also caused some stress in our marriage again, because we had to keep putting money in to the business rather than taking it out and living our lives that we had anticipated. Because when we did the original numbers, it's like, oh, we're going to be busy 24/7 and we're going to make all this money. Oh, yeah. And then you open and we have, 75 staff and 3 clients in the whole facility. it gets really expensive, and you burn through that money pretty quickly. And it's kind of scary. No, it's a
It
lot
is,
scary.
it is really scary. And there, when you have those weeks where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make payroll, or I don't know if,
Oh, yeah.
it's, and unless you're a business owner that's running a space to your capacity, um, they just don't get it, you
No,
know?
no. And and we were doing it. Actually, it's really funny because March of 2020, I remember sitting with my business partner going, this is it. This is the year. We see the numbers, everything's starting to go up, and we've got, the team is meshing and the clients are coming in, and this is our year. And 3 weeks later, we shut down. And that recovery from COVID has been hard. I have to say, it's been tough to get back to pre-COVID numbers.
Okay. So it's tough to get back to pre-COVID numbers. Why do you think that is?
Well, right now it's politics and the economy.
Yeah.
We shifted and we created those new rooms. We didn't necessarily have the right people for those rooms. We haven't been known as a medi spa. We've been known as this luxury retreat. And
Right.
so now we're shifting a little bit more into the medical side where there's more profitability for us. And so it's a bit of a relearning to our client base of, yeah, we have all, I think our tagline is, you know us for our luxury, now see our results.
Mm.
And so we're shifting that messaging into that side of business. And it's taking a little longer than we thought it would.
Do you think that people are getting away from the luxury relaxing services and they want more of the results driven downtime lasers, that kind of thing? Or were you just kind of shifting because of you needed a change?
Well, we shifted because there's more profitability, but that's the beauty of what we chose is the lasers we have. There's no downtime. Like they're fabulous.
Oh,
You can do, it's RF micro. We used to have a laser that had about 3 days of downtime. And we just kind of said, we're a luxury experience. So I want, again, like our skincare line, I want lasers that are going to have high efficacy without a lot of downtime. And you have that luxury experience still in a cosmetic procedure. And so the lasers we have, we're not a derm office, right? You don't have to have lidocaine injected in your face and 3 days of downtime and oozing and that kind of stuff. So we made choices of the products and services that we have that they're still going to have really great results, but not a lot of downtime.
okay.
Yeah.
And what do you do for your marketing?
Everything. Gosh, over the last 13 years, I think we've done every single medium that there is out there. We back in 2013 or 12, 11, 13, we did paper, we did newspapers, we did magazines, we did billboards, we did radio, you name it. We did magazines. We've done everything. And now we've kind of consolidated. I've done a few radio here and there when we've got specific campaigns that we're working on, but honest to goodness, social media and our newsletters. I have
Mm.
15,000 people on my newsletter list. I think we have 60,000 active clients at Bliss right now. So if I'm hitting 15,000 of those in the newsletters, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And the social media, and obviously Google ads, Facebook ads, like it's literally digital has made
Hmm.
that's the best advertising we can have.
Yeah. I'm going to say for your listeners, I'm just going to give a little plug for a free resource that I have on my website. So you can download a free resource on email marketing and newsletters and how to get the most out of your time. The link will be in the show notes. So I want to go back to why you did yoga and services in the same place, because I feel like that, I mean, they obviously make sense, but they seem so different from each other.
At the time, the model was we would have, so our studio when we opened fit 32 people, and we had a mission that we're not like Bikram or some of those that just slammed everybody in and you're sardines and you have 1 inch between everybody. Like we had dots on the floor, so you had 3 feet in between every mat, and it was again a luxurious yoga experience, but only 32 people. So the idea was if we had 5 or 6 classes a day, there's 100 and some odd people coming through the door. So that would be a revolving door that would have exposure to the high ticket items on the spa side. And to me, it's all wellness. It's all
Mhm.
non-judgment. Do what makes you feel good. And so in my opinion, if you need stretching or meditation or mindfulness, that's great. If you need someone to touch you because you don't have that person, we have a lot of men that come in for facials just to have that skin to skin touch. If you want to have a VelaShape or a cellulite treatment because you're self-conscious of your cellulite, do what makes you feel good. And I think that was the ultimate premise is do what makes you feel good, whether it's downtime, meditation, we have acupuncture, we have Reiki, like it's the whole gamut. It's kind of, I wanted to create a one-stop wellness facility that was judgment free. And I think that was the biggest thing for me because I've gone to yoga studios where like, oh, you can't do birds of paradise.
Yeah.
Or I've gone to spas where they're like, oh, you can't afford this. And I'm like, I don't want any of that. I want it to be come and just feel good about you. So that's why I think it all fits together because it's about feeling good about yourself.
Well, and I mean, Edmonton is the market for that because, Edmonton isn't very fluffy and,
No,
we're, the south for any, again, if you're not a native to Edmonton, south side does tend to have, I think their average income is probably a little bit higher.
that's why we picked the location. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Short Park, right? And St. Albert.
Yes.
I think those are the three key areas for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, your demographic is a little bit higher in the south side, but I was going to Bliss before, I don't live in the south side, and it's a destination space, right? So you're getting the visibility on your very busy road, but people will drive half an hour to come see you.
So that's the funny thing. They'll come for the spa side. Yoga though is very local.
They won't. Yeah,
They don't
sure.
drive for yoga. It's really interesting. And, again, COVID made that very apparent too, that people aren't going across the city to come to a yoga class.
Mm-hmm.
So that was part of the downsizing too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie, Traci, I wouldn't.
No, that's,
I guess if I loved it, maybe once a week, twice a week, something like that.
I've had that. I've had people coming from downtown on Saturdays because they
Yeah.
love that instructor. They love that time. And so when there's time, but people are busy. And so they want
Yes.
to fit into their lives. And so we get it. I totally get that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you mentioned COVID again. I want to ask you about your lease during COVID. Did you have to continue to pay your lease during COVID?
At first we were going to have to. Like it was to the point where we went back to our landlords and said, we don't have money coming in. I don't have money set aside for this. I can't pay the rent. They're like, too bad. It's not our problem. We still have to pay our mortgage on the building. And I'm like, so we were actually at a point where we were going to get all of our tenants together and go back to the landlord and say, we can't do this. Like nobody's paying anything.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are getting relief from the banks. We need to get relief. And then the government program came out and they reluctantly went along with the program, but they weren't going to at first. And it was terrifying.
The property owners, they have property managers there?
Yeah.
Is it a good experience?
No.
Oh, that's too bad.
No. Not entirely. So when we have a leak in the roof, I can call the property manager and he sends someone over, but there's no cards at Christmas time. There's no coming in and checking and saying, there's no interpersonal interaction with our landlords at all.
Okay. So for everyone listening, when you get a space, these are things we don't even think about when you sign a lease.
Oh, it's a business transaction. Like we're just a cog in the wheel of their business. Yeah. They don't.
So I've been lucky with Blush that our property managers have been amazing. But I hear stories like yourself where, landlords nickel and dime or they don't fix stuff or they, and I think before anyone chooses a space, they need to really do their research with that.
Absolutely. And I my landlord's been really good. When there is a problem, they are proactive, but there's just there's no relationship with them. None. Like, yeah, it's very interesting. So
we're nearing the end of the episode. This has been incredible. I feel like we could talk forever. I always like to, and if I didn't put this in our email, I'm sorry. But I like to give takeaways from our episode that you could maybe share with our listeners. I mean, we talked about your commercial space, opening a business during COVID, all of those things. Is there any takeaways that you have for our listeners today?
It's a consistent takeaway in a lot of parts of my life is it's okay to ask for help. And I think for me, my whole life was, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. I'm going to figure it out. I don't need anybody. And that's really stressful and it's really hard. And so I think my biggest takeaway and the things that I've learned over many, many years is it's okay to ask for help.
That hit me. It's so true though. I have tears in my eyes a little bit.
I wish I had learned that a long time ago because, there's even mistakes within the build. We've talked about franchising Bliss and how replicable we are. And I'm like, I could save so much more money on a future build because the benches I brought in from Italy could have been made in Edmonton and the drywall circles that are in the ceilings could have been accomplished with a light fixture. Like there's just so much that I could have done had I just talked to more people instead of just going, okay, I can do this.
Why do you think you didn't talk to people?
Because I thought I knew all the answers.
Right.
And that's not part of it, but part of it was the insecurity. If I ask for help, it's showing my vulnerability that I'm not as smart as I think I am. And so
especially in an industry you're a little bit green.
Well, I was very green at the time. And so, when you talk about faking it till you make it, that I'm a prime example. I faked it a lot. And that's okay. I'm not a big believer in that that's a bad thing, but I kind of like thinking about it's faking it until you do it. Like you're going to get there by trying and trying and trying and trying, but you can avoid some mistakes by asking for help at different phases of that too. So I don't think it's wrong to use the fake it till you make it, but don't do it to the detriment of your own health and your stress levels and money. Like if you can make money, then go through all avenues to make sure you know all perspectives before you make some decisions.
I also think as business owners, we tend to have a little bit of ego attached to our businesses.
Absolutely.
Which is okay. Ego is good. We all have it. You can nurture it and you can pay attention. Why is my ego flaring right now? There's a lot of things that we can do to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
But no one likes to fail.
It's hard.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
And so when we're like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. I got that. We're doing that because we're scared. We're scared to fail.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. That fear of failure has been so prevalent for so long because we got into an industry we didn't know. We didn't know the ins and outs of it, but there was nothing like us around. So we couldn't compare ourselves to anyone else either to see, are we on track? Are we not on track? How are we doing? We just kind of stayed in our lane and just went.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. It has been amazing, Traci.
Thank you, Heather. I agree.
Where can our listeners find you? You talked about your wellness coaching and everything. I would love to hear more about that.
Oh, the coaching was fun. I got into coaching after COVID because, again, as I talked about learning things the hard way, then COVID showed up and I saw people giving up on themselves and just kind of being sad and not having any lust for life. And I'm like, I can help people. I can change this. I can do something about it. And so I went back to school again in my 50s and got 5 coaching certifications. I got menopause certification. So, it's kind of fun in this business of wellness, how I've shifted. Like the business is running itself now. So it's like, how else can I be of service to people? And so this is my shift now into being of service and really utilizing all the mistakes I've made and the failures over the years to help other people so they don't have to go through the same challenges in the same way.
Oh, that's beautiful. We need people like you.
Thank you. Thank you.
What are your, what's Bliss's social media website, your website, if you want to share that and we can put it in the show notes?
Bliss MediSpa.ca. There was no .com and we had to change it from Bliss Yoga Spa to Bliss MediSpa. So it's blissmedispa.ca. Instagram is at bliss_medispa. And my coaching is tracicoaches.com.
Awesome. It was such a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you.
I look forward to talking to you more and we'll see you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Heather.
All right. Another episode bites the dust. If you loved this conversation as much as I did, don't forget to hit follow, leave a review, or even send it to a friend you think would enjoy it. And because I like to keep things fun, we're always running giveaways with our amazing guests. So make sure to check out the show notes, our Instagram page, get in on the details on how to get the free stuff because it's free and fun. And who doesn't like that? Another little disclaimer, while I love sharing advice and business wisdom, I am not your lawyer, I'm not your accountant, and I'm not your fairy godmother. If you do want to be best friends, though, you can hit me up. Everything on this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, so no lawsuits, okay? Thank you for hanging out with me today. If you'd like to hang out more, you can find me on Instagram at I am Heather Dick and at the Expansion Code. And all of our free resources and consulting packages are on the website, www.theexpansioncode.ca. I appreciate you being here more than you know. I will see you next time.